shocked and saddened tonight by a man killing the mother of his baby along with two of her children. Tonight, he's also dead after kidnapping his daughter. I'm Corey Stark. Sam has the night off. That one-year-old girl is now without her parents. And tonight, only on 4, a close friend of the victim is sharing with us the final days and text of Roseanne McCauley. Russell Kinsall is here. And Russell, she says the relationship was very abusive.
What happens when your cry for help becomes your death sentence? When the very platform you use to expose your abuser becomes the tool he uses to plan your murder? In the digital age, we share everything online, our victories, our struggles, our pain. But what if someone was watching your every word? What if they were counting down? What if your posts weren't just being read? They were being used as a roadmap. This is the story of Roseanne McCauley, a mother, an artist, a survivor who dared to speak her truth. Her posts went viral. Her friends rallied. She seemed ready to reclaim her life. But her estranged husband was monitoring every single update. And when the police were called about someone lurking outside her home one night, they found nothing. Hours later, they would return to discover 3 lives violently stolen and a community asking one haunting question. Could anything have stopped this? Welcome to Crime Gone Viral, where we don't just tell stories, we uncover the truth hidden in plain sight. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into a case that exposes the deadly intersection of domestic violence, social media, and the gaps in a system meant to protect us. This is a story about courage, betrayal, and the question that haunts us all. How many red flags does it take before someone intervenes? If you're ready to uncover what really happened on that horrific night in March 2021, if you're ready to see how one woman's desperate plea for help turned into evidence in her own murder case, then stay with me, because this story will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about domestic violence, about social media oversharing, and about the thin line between public awareness and deadly consequences. If you're ready, let's dive in.
Okay, listen. I am fucking sick of COVID. Like, it's gotta go, y'all. I'm tired. I go into Office Max, have to pick up some things. I'm walking out the door, y'all, mask on and everything, okay? Because, you gotta wear your mask in the store. And that's fine. Totally with it, right? Until today. I walk past somebody and I caught a whiff of something, y'all. Dude was mustier. I don't even know, but the shit caught my nose and then got like trapped between this motherfucking mask and my nose. I almost died.
St. Louis, Missouri, a city known for its iconic Gateway Arch, its world-class museums, and its tight-knit communities. But on March 5th, 2021, one neighborhood in North County would become the site of an unspeakable tragedy that would shake the entire region to its core. Roseanne McCauley was born on December 8, 1996, in Cazenovia, Arkansas. To everyone who knew her, she was simply Rosie, a name that captured her warm, vibrant spirit. She eventually made her way to the St. Louis area, where she would build what seemed like a promising life, filled with creativity, ambition, and an unwavering dedication to her children. After graduating from Leo Horton Watkins High School, Rosie pursued a degree in communications at the University of Missouri in St. Louis. In May 2012, degree in hand, she stood at a crossroads that many young graduates face: the corporate ladder or the entrepreneurial leap. Rosie chose both. Art wasn't just a hobby for her. It was oxygen. Whether she was sketching, painting, or designing custom pieces, creativity flowed through her veins. She saw beauty in blank canvases and possibility in every project, period. Just months after graduation, Rosie channeled that passion into building her own brand, Glitter on ETH Craft Studio. Through this small business, she handcrafted personalized items, custom cups adorned with intricate designs, shoes transformed into wearable art, birthday cakes that looked too beautiful to eat. She offered budget-friendly craft supplies and shared tutorials that made creativity accessible to everyone. Her social media presence was growing, her customer base expanding. She was building something real. But dreams don't pay bills alone. By day, Rosie worked as a customer service lead at Centene Corporation, a Fortune 500 healthcare company. She was known for her reliability, her strong work ethic, and her ability to handle difficult situations with grace. Colleagues described her as someone who genuinely cared about helping people, whether it was solving their insurance issues or brightening their day with her infectious humor. Rosie was funny, sarcastic in the best way, endlessly sweet and fiercely loving. Her laughter could fill a room. Her kindness lingered long after she left. She was the type of person who remembered birthdays, who sent encouraging messages, who showed up when it mattered. But above all else, Rosie was a mother. Her world revolved around her 3 children, 13-year-old Caden Johnson, 6-year-old Kay Brooks, and her youngest, just 1-year-old. Everything she did, every craft she sold, every shift she worked, every dream she chased, began and ended with them. To the outside world, Rosie appeared to have it together, a devoted mother, a talented artist, a hard worker balancing multiple roles with determination. Her social media painted a picture of someone who was strong, creative, and optimistic. Friends saw someone who seemed to be thriving despite life's challenges. But behind that smile, behind those carefully curated posts, a much darker reality was unfolding. And it had been unfolding for years. Because Rosie had met someone whose criminal history stretched back over a decade, someone with a pattern that should have been impossible to miss. But love, or what masquerades as love, has a way of blinding us to what we should see. And what Rosie couldn't see in the beginning would eventually cost her everything.
Like, what the fuck? Sir? Why are you this musty? What? Why would you do that? What have I ever done to you? Like, I was offended. It was stuck between the mask and my nose, and I, was trying to hurry up and rush out of the store, but he was in my way, and I'm sick of this shit. It's gotta go. And how the fuck is the mask? I'm not sure. Is the virus less efficient than the nigga's must? Because his must made it through the mask. Oh, I'm sick of COVID. Jesus, I'm tired.
Bobby McCulley III was 35 years old when he and Rosie connected through mutual acquaintances. On the surface, perhaps he seemed like someone ready to settle down, someone looking for a fresh start. But a deeper look into his past revealed something far more troubling, a pattern of violence and control that had been documented by law enforcement for over a decade. Bobby's run-ins with the law began in 2008, when he was just 23 years old. These weren't minor infractions or youthful mistakes. He was convicted of false imprisonment, legally defined as detaining someone against their will, holding them captive, preventing them from leaving. Think about that for a moment. This wasn't about a heated argument that got out of hand. This was about control, about physically restraining another human being and stripping them of their freedom to leave.
Police say McCulley had a history of run-ins with the law dating back to 2008. More recently, the alleged suspect and victim had a domestic dispute in 2017, but no charges were pressed.
The charges didn't stop there. Bobby also faced accusations of tampering with a victim or witness, attempting to influence or intimidate someone involved in a legal case, trying to manipulate the justice system itself. The court sentenced him to a year of probation and ordered him to wear an ankle monitor. For 12 months, his every movement was tracked, a constant reminder that he was under surveillance, that he had crossed a line. But that conviction was just the beginning of a deeply disturbing pattern. In 2016, 8 years after his initial offense, a woman obtained a full order of protection against Bobby. That same year, 2016, another woman filed a complaint against Bobby for domestic violence. The cycle was clear: intimidation, threats, manipulation, violence. Different women, same pattern. And the system had documentation of it all. Then came 2017. This time it was Rosie herself who filed a complaint against Bobby. The details of what happened that day are not fully public, but what we do know is this. Rosie pressed charges, then made the heartbreaking decision that so many domestic violence survivors make. She chose not to move forward with prosecution. Without her cooperation and without sufficient independent evidence, the case was dismissed. Survivors of domestic violence face impossible choices: prosecute and risk escalating the violence, or drop charges and hope things will get better. There is no right answer, only survival. Despite this troubling history, despite the prior conviction, the orders of protection, the multiple women who had reported him, despite Rosie's own 2017 complaint, on July 29, 2018, Roseanne McCauley married Bobby McCulley III. Friends and family attended the wedding. On the outside, Rosie appeared genuinely happy, smiling as she embarked on what she believed would be a new chapter. Those who loved her had concerns, but they chose to respect her decision, hoping that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. 7 days after their wedding, Rosie posted her excitement online. Here's to a lifetime worth of weeks and an infinite amount of memories. What we do know is that months later, in October 2018, Rosie praised Bobby publicly, describing him as incredibly supportive. To everyone watching from the outside, the marriage seemed solid.
Zora, stop! Get your big ass head off me, poopy doo. Get off me.
On you.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't you hit me because you mad I said you can't headbutt me. You don't headbutt me no more.
In August 2019, the couple welcomed a daughter together, Zora. This was Rosie's third child, and Bobby had children from previous relationships as well. But Zora was their shared connection, their common ground. Rosie hoped this baby would transform their marriage, that becoming parents together would bring the positive change she'd been praying for. It's a hope so many survivors cling to, that a child, a new beginning, a fresh start might be the catalyst for healing. But Bobby's behavior didn't improve. It intensified in all the wrong directions. Yet Rosie's social media continued to paint a different picture. And that's the insidious nature of abuse. It thrives in secrecy. It hides behind carefully curated photos and cheerful status updates. Until one day, the facade cracks. Until the victim can no longer maintain the illusion. Until the truth becomes too heavy to carry in silence. For Rosie, that moment was coming. And when it arrived, she would make a decision that terrified her abuser. She would tell the world what was really happening behind closed doors. February 20th, 2021. On the surface, it seemed like a typical Saturday, but for Rosie, it was the day everything changed. The day she decided she could no longer live in fear, could no longer protect someone who had been hurting her. But Bobby wasn't ready to let go. Text messages began flooding her phone. He was pleading, apologizing, claiming he had nowhere else to turn. He mentioned that police were searching for him and begged Rosie to call them off, fearing he would lose his job if they found him. But Rosie refused. She had made her decision. She was determined to move forward without him, to reclaim her life and protect her children. The following day, February 21st, Rosie revealed everything. In a Facebook post that would soon go viral, she shared the brutal truth about what had happened the night before. She wrote, "I'm gonna have to put this thing in retirement. I mean, I knew it was a little something, but I definitely never thought I would get beat up for not giving it to a man enough. Y'all dudes really out here hitting your wife because they don't sleep with you enough? Stomping them in the head with steel-toed boots on and trying to hit them in the face with tables?" Let's pause here. Rosie wasn't just sharing her story. She was calling out a specific, horrifying pattern of abuse. Steel-toed boots to the head, tables swung at her face. Physical violence triggered by his sexual demands not being met. This wasn't a one-time loss of temper. This was calculated brutality, a punishment designed to control and intimidate. And Rosie, for the first time, was refusing to stay silent about it. At 2 p.m., just hours after that initial post, Rosie updated her followers from the hospital. Doctors had discovered injuries she hadn't even realized she had. Her entire right side of her face and head were swollen. Bruises covered her chest and abdomen where Bobby had stomped on her. Medical staff found lumps and abrasions in places she hadn't thought to check. They wanted to take X-rays to assess potential internal damage. The medical documentation was damning. Rosie's injuries were so severe that she later shared she received morphine through an IV to manage the pain. Think about the level of trauma your body must endure for doctors to administer morphine. This wasn't minor bruising. This was assault causing significant physical harm, the kind that leaves lasting scars, both visible and invisible. On February 23, 2021, just 2 days after revealing the assault, Rosie posted another powerful statement. "There isn't a male friend or family member of mine that would be able to hit his wife, girlfriend, baby mama, or whoever, and then seek shelter at my house. Flat out, I'm not housing no woman beater. Not bringing him stuff from her house. Not gonna do it. Some of y'all's morals are definitely questionable." How can you stay friends with someone who is a repeat offender? His post wasn't just about Bobby. It was a call to action directed at their mutual friends, at his family, at anyone who knew what Bobby was capable of but chose to look the other way. Rosie was drawing a line in the sand, making it clear that she would not tolerate complicity, that she expected others to hold Bobby accountable. It was brave, it was necessary, and it infuriated her abuser. The following day, February 24th, Rosie thanked everyone for their overwhelming support. The calls, the messages, the comments, even the financial assistance some had sent to help her and her children. She had gained a massive wave of support from people who believed her, who stood with her, who wanted to help. But not everyone supported her decision to go public. Some commenters criticized her for oversharing, for airing private matters online, for potentially making the situation worse. Others questioned her motives, suggesting she was seeking attention or dramatizing the situation. Rosie pressed forward anyway. She asked if anyone could help move Bobby's belongings into storage. She wanted every single reason for contact with him to be eliminated. No excuses for him to show up at her door. No justification for him to reach out. She was cutting ties completely, systematically removing him from her life. And she acknowledged something chilling in one of her posts. She knew Bobby was monitoring her social media. She knew he was reading every word she wrote. But she had stopped caring. She was done being afraid. March 4th, 2021. Nearly 2 weeks had passed since Rosie first exposed Bobby's abuse online. In that time, she had filed formal charges against him on February 20th. But authorities still hadn't been able to locate Bobby to serve him with an arrest warrant. He had seemingly vanished, staying off the grid, evading law enforcement. But as we would learn later, he was never far away. He was watching, he was waiting, and he was planning.
She had a lot of people that just loved her because she was such a sweet person.
That evening, Rosie spoke on the phone with her close friend, Stephanie St. John. The conversation was tense. Rosie confessed that she was frightened, that something felt deeply wrong, that she sensed danger closing in. Stephanie, alarmed by the fear in Rosie's voice, gave her friend urgent advice.
I said, I need you to leave the house. I don't care where you go. I need you to get out of there.
Friend says Rosie was private about the abuse she suffered till 2 weeks ago.
He assaulted her, like, really badly.
Stephanie and Rosie agreed to check in regularly throughout the evening. At around 8:30 p.m., a neighbor in Rosie's subdivision noticed something unsettling, a suspicious person lurking between homes in the area, particularly near Rosie's property on Lockwick Trail in Florissant, North County. The neighbor did the right thing. They called the police immediately. St. Louis County Police Department officers responded to the call, arriving at the 4800 block of Lockwick Trail. They canvassed the area, searching between houses, checking vehicles, talking to neighbors, but they found no one. There was a vehicle parked nearby that didn't belong to anyone in the neighborhood, but it provided no immediate clues. After a thorough search yielded nothing, the officers left.
Threat.
We had been looking for the suspect. She stayed there at the residence with her kids. There wasn't any indications to us that he was going to go back last night.
But Bobby was there, concealed in shadows, hidden in a spot the officers couldn't see. He waited. And the moment the police cruiser disappeared around the corner, he made his move. Meanwhile, Stephanie continued trying to reach Rosie. She called multiple times, no answer. She sent text messages, nothing. Finally, around 10:30 p.m., Stephanie texted, "Answer me." A response came back almost immediately. "Busy. I will hit you back shortly." But something about that message felt wrong to Stephanie. The phrasing, the tone, it didn't sound like Rosie. It sounded like someone pretending to be Rosie.
Said she last talked to Rosie around 6:30, but planned to check in regularly.
And I'm calling. She didn't answer. And I sent her a text message.
Stephanie's instincts kicked in. She sent another message. "Girl, I was about to beat these streets." Still no response. Then she typed the words that confirmed her worst fears. "Bobby, let my niece go." Silence. No reply. No assurances. Just an eerie, terrifying silence that stretched on through the night. Hours passed. Then, around 11:30 p.m., another neighbor heard something that made their blood run cold. Screaming, shouting, banging sounds coming from Rosie's home. They also noticed something strange. The lights inside the house flashed 3 times, rapidly, as if someone was trying to signal for help. The neighbor immediately called Rosie's phone. No answer. They dialed 911. When St. Louis County police officers returned to the residence for the second time that night, they discovered a broken window at the side of the house. Bobby had forced his way in, shattering glass to gain entry while Rosie and her children were inside. What the officers found when they entered that home would haunt them forever. Inside the residence at 4800 Lockwick Trail, they discovered the bodies of 34-year-old Roseanne McCauley, her 13-year-old son Caden Johnson, and her 6-year-old daughter Kay Brooks. All 3 had been shot. All 3 were gone. But one child was missing. 1-year-old Zora, Bobby and Rosie's daughter together, was not found in the home. Police immediately issued an Amber Alert, broadcasting the urgent message across the region. A child had been abducted by a murder suspect who was armed, dangerous, and now had nothing to lose.
Daughter.
That is a sick, sadistic individual.
The manhunt for Bobby McCulley III had begun, but time was running out, and investigators knew they were chasing a man who had just committed the unthinkable. A man who had destroyed his own family, and who might be planning to take one more life before it was all over. As homicide detectives pieced together the events of that horrific night, they uncovered something deeply disturbing. Bobby McCulley hadn't evaded capture entirely on his own. Someone had been helping him. Someone had deliberately deceived law enforcement, obstructed their investigation, and protected a triple murderer. That person was Bobby's own mother.
So thank you. In the aftermath of the violence, Bobby McCulley's mother is facing charges tonight. Police say Michelle Clayton lied to officers in an effort to stall them from arresting her son.
55-year-old Michelle Clayton was arrested and charged with felony obstruction of justice. According to court documents, Michelle had misled police about her son's whereabouts, lied to investigators during questioning, and actively prevented Bobby's arrest. Even after knowing what he had done, even after 3 innocent people, including 2 children, had been murdered, she chose to protect her son rather than help authorities bring him to justice. Think about the moral calculus that requires. Your adult son has just murdered his wife and 2 stepchildren in cold blood. He has abducted a 1-year-old child. He is armed and dangerous. Law enforcement is desperately searching for him. And in that moment, you have a choice. Tell the truth and help end this nightmare, or lie to protect your child at the expense of justice, at the expense of a grieving family's right to closure. Michelle Clayton chose the latter. Michelle's case raises uncomfortable questions about familial loyalty versus moral responsibility. At what point does protecting your child cross the line into criminal complicity? When does love become enablement? When does a mother's instinct to shield her son conflict with the greater good of society? These aren't easy questions, but they're essential ones, especially in cases of domestic violence, where abusers often rely on family members to minimize their behavior, to make excuses, to hide them from consequences. Prosecutor Wesley Bell's words at the press conference resonate even more powerfully in light of Michelle's arrest. Perpetrators of abuse have families. Let us look at our own family. Let us look in our own homes, in our own circles, in our own networks, and not allow it. So let's call that thing out. Let's offer therapy.
The arrest. We need people to point their family members or their friends to the types of resources to get them help. Or if it's already crossed that line of violence, sometimes you got to do the uncomfortable thing, which is report it to law enforcement because, maybe it might strain that relationship, but it might save someone's life.
But while Michelle Clayton would eventually face legal consequences, nothing could undo what had been done. 3 lives were gone. A 1-year-old child was left without a family, and a community was left asking, how did we let this happen? The news of the murder spread quickly through the North County community and beyond. Neighbors on Lockwick Trail were devastated, struggling to process the violence that had occurred just doors away from their own homes. Many had seen Rosie just days before the murders, playing outside with her children, laughing, living what appeared to be a normal life. The suddenness of the tragedy left them heartbroken and searching for answers.
Nolan, this triple homicide has stunned the family's neighbors. Tonight they shared their story with our Robert Townsend. He joins us live from outside St. Louis County Police Headquarters in Clayton.
Casey, as you can imagine, there's a lot of heartbreak in that neighborhood. People can't stop thinking about the mom and her 2 kids who lost their lives and the 1-year-old left behind.
Lionel Harold, a neighbor who lived across the street, could barely speak through his tears when interviewed by local news. "Very beautiful young lady," he said, his voice breaking. "The kids were very amenable. For that to happen this close to home, I've been crying. I ain't even been asleep. I was trying to get some sleep, I'm devastated. My prayers, my family's prayers go out to the family. I hate this even happened to the family." His words captured what so many in the community felt: shock, grief, and a profound sense of loss.
Very beautiful young lady. The kids were very
Neighbors say
sad day for that to happen this close
tears.
To home. Excuse me for crying. They didn't deserve that.
Harold is just one of many neighbors on Lockwick Trail in Florissant, now gripped with sadness, heartbreak, and disbelief.
I never get over this.
Family.
I've been trying all. I ain't even been asleep. I was trying to get some sleep. I'm devastated.
My prayers, my family prayers go out to the family. I hate this even happened to the family.
Rosie's mother faced the unimaginable pain of losing not only her daughter, but also 2 of her grandchildren. In a public statement, she expressed her devastation. "I lost my daughter and my 2 grandchildren to something that I never imagined would happen." Her grief was compounded by frustration with the system that she felt had failed to protect her family. She pointed out that authorities had seen the evidence of Bobby's abuse, the hospital records, the photographs, the documented injuries, and yet they had charged him with what she described as a misdemeanor assault, which meant they could only issue a wanted notice rather than actively pursuing him. Police maintained that they had been actively searching for Bobby in the hours before the murders, responding to the domestic violence complaint Rosie had filed. But as Lieutenant Colonel Sack acknowledged in the press conference, there had been no indication that Bobby would return to Rosie's home that night. "We had been looking for the suspect," he said. "She was gonna. She stayed there at the residence with her kids. There wasn't any indications to us that he was going to go back last night." In hindsight, that assessment proved tragically wrong.
They saw exactly what had been done to her, and they charged it as some misdemeanor, assault 3 or something, which meant they could only put out a wanted, which means that they weren't actively looking for him. I mean, had he run across them at a traffic stop or something, they might have arrested him, but they didn't actively go out and find him.
Although sad.
There's only one, and she's not going to remember a lot, but I'm going to make sure that she's steeped in family.
Police
The vigil became a powerful demonstration of community solidarity and a call to action against domestic violence. Rosie's family attended, sharing their grief and their determination to prevent other families from experiencing similar tragedies. The vigil also featured remarks from local leaders, including Congresswoman Cori Bush, herself a survivor of domestic violence. She shared her own story of abuse and how her father had saved her life by helping her escape. In the aftermath of any tragedy this profound, we're left with questions that have no easy answers. Questions that keep us awake at night. Questions that force us to examine our own assumptions, our own complicity, our own failures as a society. The murder of Roseanne McCauley and her children raises several such questions, each one more haunting than the last. First, did Rosie's social media posts provoke Bobby, or were they her only means of creating a record of abuse? This question has divided people since the case first made headlines. Some argued that Rosie's decision to post publicly about the abuse escalated Bobby's rage, that she should have stayed quiet and worked with law enforcement privately. Others countered that her posts provided crucial documentation of the abuse, that they mobilized community support, that they potentially saved other women by exposing Bobby's pattern of violence. The reality is far more complex than either position acknowledges. Rosie's posts did document the abuse in a way that traditional reporting might not have. They created a digital paper trail that couldn't be ignored or minimized. They alerted her community to the danger she was facing. But they also infuriated an already violent man who was losing control over her, who saw her public statements as an attack on his reputation, who felt humiliated by her refusal to stay silent. Bobby's own comment makes clear that he was monitoring her posts and that they were fueling his rage. But here's what we must remember. Abusers will always find an excuse to justify their violence. If it wasn't the social media posts, it would have been something else. The divorce filing, the charges she pressed, the fact that she dared to leave him. Blaming Rosie for speaking out is like blaming a drowning person for screaming for help. She was doing what she needed to do to survive, to protect herself, to ensure that if something happened to her, there would be a record of who was responsible. If police had searched longer when the first suspicious person call came in, could they have found Bobby before he broke into the house? This is perhaps the most painful question for law enforcement and for the community. Officers responded to a suspicious person call at 8:30 p.m. They searched the area thoroughly, talked to neighbors, checked vehicles, but they didn't find Bobby, so they cleared the call and left. 3 hours later, shots were fired, and 3 people were dead. In hindsight, it's easy to ask, couldn't they have searched longer? Couldn't they have posted an officer to watch the house? Couldn't they have taken the threat more seriously given Bobby's history and the active domestic violence case? But this question does highlight a critical systemic issue. When police are actively searching for a domestic violence suspect, when there's documented evidence of serious abuse, when a victim has expressed fear for her safety, should the response protocol be different? Should there be additional safeguards, more thorough follow-ups, enhanced protection for victims in high-risk situations? The answer, clearly, is yes. Roseanne McCauley, Caden Johnson, and Kay Bilks are gone. No amount of analysis, no system reform, no legal consequences for Bobby's mother will bring them back. But their story, tragic as it is, can serve as a catalyst for change if we're willing to learn the lessons it teaches us. Domestic violence is everyone's problem, not just the victims. Prosecutor Wesley Bell said it best: it takes a village to protect the child and protect family members. We cannot continue to treat domestic violence as a private matter, as something that happens behind closed doors and isn't our concern. When we know someone is being abused, whether it's a friend, a family member, a coworker, or even a stranger posting on social media, we have a responsibility to act. That action might look different depending on the situation. It might mean offering safe housing or financial support. It might mean accompanying a friend to file a police report or attend a court hearing. It might mean calling law enforcement when you witness abuse or hear it happening. It might mean confronting the abuser or reporting them to authorities. And yes, sometimes it means doing the uncomfortable thing, turning in a family member, testifying against someone you care about, choosing justice over loyalty. Past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. Bobby McCulley's pattern of violence stretched back 13 years. He had been convicted of false imprisonment. Multiple women had filed protection orders against him. He had faced charges related to domestic violence on multiple occasions. This wasn't a man who snapped one day in a moment of rage. This was a man with a documented history of control, intimidation, and violence who continued to escalate until he committed murder. We must stop giving abusers the benefit of the doubt. We must stop accepting excuses like, he's changed, or he's working on it, or he's been under a lot of stress. When someone shows you who they are through their actions, especially violent actions, believe them, and more importantly, act on that belief. Don't date someone with a history of domestic violence. Don't minimize red flags. Don't assume you'll be the exception to their pattern. Social media can be both a tool and a trap. Rosie's decision to document her abuse on Facebook had both positive and negative consequences. On one hand, it created a public record of Bobby's violence, mobilized community support, and potentially warned other women about his behavior. On the other hand, it also enraged Bobby, who saw her posts as humiliating and escalated his threats in response. There's no easy answer here. Victims should not have to stay silent about their abuse out of fear that speaking out will make things worse. Silence enables abusers and perpetuates cycles of violence. But victims also need to be aware that going public, particularly while still in danger, can provoke retaliation. The safest approach is to work with domestic violence advocates who can help create a safety plan, document evidence in ways that don't alert the abuser, and ensure that appropriate protection measures are in place before making public statements. The system needs reform, urgently. Rosie's case exposes numerous gaps in how we respond to domestic violence. Victims who recant or refuse to cooperate shouldn't automatically result in cases being dropped. We need evidence-based prosecution models that can proceed without victim testimony. High-risk victims need enhanced protection, not just advice to stay safe. Charging decisions should reflect the full context of an abuser's history, not just the current incident. And when police are actively searching for a domestic violence suspect, the victim should be offered relocation assistance, panic buttons, or other concrete protective measures. Intervention must target abusers, not just support victims. Congresswoman Cori Bush emphasized this point at the vigil. Perpetrators of abuse have families. Let us look at our own family. We spend enormous energy telling victims how to stay safe, how to document abuse, how to leave safely, how to protect themselves. But we spend comparatively little energy addressing the root cause, abusers themselves. If you know someone who is abusive, whether it's your brother, your son, your friend, your coworker, you have a moral obligation to intervene. Call them out. Refuse to make excuses for them. Encourage them to seek therapy or anger management. Report them to authorities if they're engaging in criminal behavior. Stop protecting them simply because they're family or because confronting them is uncomfortable. Your discomfort is a small price to pay if it saves someone's life. Michelle Clayton's choice to protect her son after he committed murder should disgust and anger us. But it should also prompt us to ask, how many of us have been complicit in smaller ways? How many of us have minimized someone's abusive behavior, made excuses for them, or stayed silent when we should have spoken up? We cannot continue to enable abusers and then act shocked when they escalate to violence. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out for help. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24/7 at 1-800-799-7233. You can also text START to 88788. These services are free, confidential, and staffed by trained advocates who can help you create a safety plan, connect you with local resources, and support you through the process of leaving an abusive relationship. Remember, abuse is never your fault. You deserve to be safe. You deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, and there are people who want to help you, who believe you, and who will stand with you. Roseanne McCauley was a talented artist, a devoted mother, a loving daughter, a loyal friend. She was funny, sarcastic, kind, and creative. She loved glitter and custom crafts and making birthday cakes for children. She worked hard to provide for her family while pursuing her entrepreneurial dreams. She had a life full of potential, full of love, full of plans for the future. Caden Johnson was 13 years old. He loved video games and spending time with his mom and siblings. He had his whole life ahead of him: high school, graduation, maybe college or a career, falling in love, building a family of his own. All of that was stolen from him. Kay Brooks was 6 years old. She was learning to read, making friends at school, discovering what she loved and what made her unique. She should have had decades to grow, to explore, to become whoever she was meant to be. That future was taken from her in an act of senseless violence. This case is a stark reminder that danger can wear a familiar face, that love and control are not the same thing, that violence escalates when we ignore warning signs, that speaking out can be both brave and dangerous, that our systems, despite good intentions, often fail those who need protection most. But it's also a reminder that we have power, the power to intervene, to support survivors, to hold abusers accountable, to demand better from our institutions, and to create communities where violence is not tolerated. Stay aware, look out for others, speak up when you see red flags, reach out if you need help, and never ever assume that someone else will take care of it.
Point their family members or their friends to the types of resources to get them help, or if it's already crossed that line of violence, sometimes you got to do the uncomfortable thing, which is report it to law enforcement, because, you know, maybe it might strain that relationship, but it might save someone's life.
We want folks to understand you don't have to suffer in silence. You can get help, and we're bringing those resources to the table.
Thank you for staying with me through this difficult but important story. The case of Roseanne McCauley isn't just another true crime story. It's a call to action, a challenge to all of us to do better, to be better, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. If this story moved you, if it opened your eyes to the realities of domestic violence, if it made you think about how you can be part of the solution, then please share this video. Share it with your friends, your family, your community. The more people who understand the dynamics of domestic violence, the more lives we can save. And if you're passionate about these stories, about uncovering the truth, about seeking justice, about shining a light on cases that matter, then hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Crime Gone Viral brings you meticulously researched, deeply reported true crime stories that go beyond the headlines. We don't just tell you what happened, we show you why it matters. Drop a comment below and let me know. What was the most shocking part of this case for you? Do you think social media helps or harms domestic violence victims who speak out? What changes do you think need to happen in our justice system to better protect survivors? I read every single comment, and your insights help shape future episodes. And please, if this video helped you understand domestic violence better, if it gave you information that could help someone you know, give it a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm show this content to more people who need to see it. Remember, you are not alone. Help is available. You deserve safety. You deserve respect. And your story matters. Until next time, stay safe, stay vigilant, and stay informed. This is Crime Gone Viral, where truth meets justice.